score in this league. We know how good the Jazz are defensively. Second best defensive rating, tied with the Spurs for fewest points per game allowed. Defensively, they're really good. Offensively, middle of the pack. 15th offensive rating, 19th points per game. Does this Jazz team rely, as we go to point 3, too much on their defense? Do they have enough offense to become an elite team?
You know, I thought Quinn Snyder did a good job. I think if you look at it, they weren't an offensive team. They couldn't get up and down. They didn't have the type of pace. So he had these guys buy in that if we're going to win games, it's going to be defensively. And so they got to the playoffs. They got to the second round. I think they're going to have to win games different defensively. I love Favors. I love Gobert. I don't like them both on the court at the same time, the way the league is going to shooting threes and high pick and rolls. So I would love to see them play a little bit smaller, maybe Ingles at the 4, maybe have another guy come in and have Favors, whether he's starting, probably Gobert starting, for those guys to get a little bit more stretch and space because they're playing a little bit smaller.
Jared, if they're going to be better offensively, they're going to have to get production off of their bench. I think that's the one thing that'll make them, that'll push them to 110 points a game opposed to 104, which they averaged last year. But I think people underrate the value of guys coming in, understanding their role, and playing their role. If they're an offensive guy, you come in, you get buckets. If you're a defensive guy, you come in and play your role there. You can create offense that way as well.
Can they play faster, Harp, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so. Rubio likes to push it. I mean, he's
Can they
not
play
Donovan
faster
Mitchell.
with Favors and Gobert?
No, yeah, I think they can.
Okay.
I really do, because you have two guards out on the floor, in Rubio and Donovan, that like to go.
I love Ingles.
Yeah,
but I think I can outrun Ingles right now.
They like to go. And he's running.
Can we set that up, first of all?
Listen,
I got Joe Ingles.
He's running to that three-point line, though,
Yes.
where he shot a very high three-point
I love Ingles.
percentage.
I'm talking about as far as foot speed, though.
He doesn't have to run. He has to shoot and make shots. That's what his responsibility is.
Drafting, they're very deep in the backcourt.
Very.
They're drafting Grayson Allen. I don't know how much playing time he gets, but when he gets on the court, how much of a punch can he give him?
You know, because the kid can shoot the basketball, and you love Grayson Allen. Anytime you can stretch the floor, and I love him. He's always been a competitor, a little feisty, and then you can have him, a guy that shoots from deep. That's why I know Donovan Mitchell is their best player, in my opinion, but the most important until they get somebody else is Joe Ingles. They don't have enough guys that can stretch the floor and make plays other than at the rim. Rubio at the rim, Burks at the rim. You got to have some guys that can catch, knock down a three.
Right.
If they run you off the line, can you make the next play? And that's why I think Ingles did a fantastic job for them last year.
You know, Steve, you know this. Where you're drafted, what team drafts you for your ability is really important. And I think the fact that he got drafted by the Jazz, it's going to bode well for him. I think that's the perfect spot for a guy like Allen. He plays with an edge. As long as he's not tripping people and doing those having those kind of things going on, I think he's going to be a solid pro. I really do.
Be interesting to see him take on the Golden State Warriors, right? The team that leads the league in technical fouls every year.
Yeah, you know.
It gets chippy out there, man. It's just the way it goes.
Hey, listen, you got a few technical fouls in your day.
I certainly did.
We've got plenty more to come. These guys are going to go on the court and show you how some adjustments to league rules may impact and ultimately help out Donovan Mitchell, and he's going to avoid that sophomore slump and become a sophomore sensation.
If you haven't seen him play, he's an excitement. He makes everything look easy. Donovan Mitchell from the backside with a rejection. This is a three. Once again, Mitchell drive and scoop it home. What a night it's been for Donovan Mitchell. Playoff career high, 37 points.
In fact, Donovan Mitchell, the 12th leading scorer in all of the NBA during the playoffs. On to point number 5 here with the Jazz projected depth chart, as we talked about in the first segment, relatively unchanged from last year. But when we look at this and you know, we think about maybe being aggressive during the season, Dennis Lindsey, is there something that you think the general manager of the Jazz may try and still yet acquire?
Well, I think when I'm looking at that roster right now, I still think you need spacing. And when you have spacing, you have guys that can knock down shots. So I think that's the one thing they need, Harp. Also, I think they got to find a way to get some easier baskets, whether that's in transition or at the free throw line, some kind of way to so the offense won't be just hard every trip down.
Well, shooting, even though they shot 36% from the field, from the three-point line last year, I think you got to have guys that can catch and shoot the basketball. They have a presence on the inside in Gobert, and with him being in there, it should open things up for some more easy opportunities, to your point, around the perimeter, in my opinion.
Guys, one thing we're going to probably see a lot during the preseason and certainly in the early parts of the season is new points of emphasis this year for the officials is about freedom of movement. The NBA wants a more flowing game, right? Free-flowing game. And so that has to do with the ball handler, as we've seen over the years, Derek Harper rule, as well as off the ball too, the clutching, the grabbing, allowing the offensive player to go from point A to point B without being impeded. So on one hand, we think about the Jazz defense, maybe that hurts them, but offensively, that may help Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, it is. And I would say, let's show a little example. You go out there, Jared, as the point guard.
Obviously.
Back in the day, we used to have these plays, Harper, as you know, you come off.
Floppy up, floppy down.
And first of all, offensively, if Derek Harper is guarding me on the offensive end, and he's not allowed to clutch me, now Harper has to just basically.
Or even stay close to
me. He has to react to what I'm doing, whether I go here or not. It's a reaction. So with Donovan Mitchell, as good as he is, and if he can get off quickly, and you throw this bounce pass right here, I think because of now the rules right now, Harp, he can swing through, take a shot.
Right.
But when we look at on the defensive end what they used to do, let's go back down here.
Go back down here.
Let's go back down here.
And you were talking about a little push off and getting away from the defense. I could lock when I was in the league and when we were in the league. I could lock in here and basically force you one way. I wouldn't give you this way and that way. I would get up on you and kind of force you this way.
And all
you played against Orlando Black, one of the best at this, freeing himself off of physical play.
Yes.
Right. You push off, you get to where you want to get, and you knock down easy shots coming off the down screens.
And I think, obviously, now when you start to look, Jared, there's a lot of pick and rolls, a high pick and rolls. They use that a lot. You're going to be my guy setting a pick.
Okay.
So freedom of movement. Derek Harper is guarding me, a fantastic defender. But obviously, I give it a little bit of advantage because he can't put his hands on me right now, whether it's the hand check or here. And back in the day, me and Harper was talking about it off.
Yeah.
I never pretty much was set up like this. Everything was right here.
Right.
So now, Derek, he'll talk about the defensive standpoint, but if I'm talking about the offense, if I have Harp right here, I can go left.
Right.
I can go right easier.
Right.
But now,
Good screen,
whoa. Okay, Jared.
That's
okay,
good.
Jared.
That's good. That's
Foul, but that was okay, Jared.
No, this is 90s
So, that's exactly right.
Let's
You
talk
could
about
set hard
now,
fouls.
Derek, on the defensive end.
Well, like you just talked about, Smitty, I'm not allowed to touch you. So you can face up, you can go left, you can go away from the screen, you can go to the screen. In the past, I would want to get up on him and fight my way over the top of a screen, knowing that I'm going to get a little show after Donovan comes off the screen. You're going to show, the big is going to show. But if I could put my hand here and guide him
That wasn't
somewhere.
just a hand, though, Jared. That was more than a hand. But also, look at the difference. Before, I'm here.
Right, and I'm back here.
Right.
Now,
I'm more
he's
apt,
into me.
I'm more apt to run right into the screen, being off of the offensive player, opposed to being up and in him, is what Coach Riley used to talk about. Get up in him, and you can kind of control. You set the screen.
And look what I changed now. I'm here, Hart.
Right.
Right.
And that puts the defense at an advantage.
Thank you for not running into me.
Oh, no, I wouldn't do that, Jerry.
Appreciate that.
I like you. You're a good guy.
You didn't like Harper something? You tried to hit Hart pretty hard.
Grew up a net fan across the river.
It's okay.
Problems
All
with Harp,
good.
in the 90s. We got plenty more to go on our Utah Jazz team preview.
Why don't you try to handle it, Hart?
How many games will they win?
Get in him, Hart. Look at him.
How many games will the Jazz win? Plus, we'll hear from the starters when we come back here on our Utah Jazz.
Johnny Daniel, come on. I'm setting the screen for you. Be careful. Hart, get it. Hey. Manage Hart.
Back with our Jazz team preview, point 7. Over the summer, Donovan Mitchell, multi-sport athlete. He connected on a long home run during James Harden's celebrity softball game.
That looked good.
He comes from a family of baseball players. His father played 7 minor league seasons with the Mets.
He's actually batting left-handed. Check that out.
We got more on the Jazz from the starters. Will they become an elite team in the West?
Skeets and Lee here from the starters with your next point about the Utah Jazz. It's in the form of a question. True or false, Lee, the Utah Jazz are an elite Western Conference team?
It's true. I believe in the Utah Jazz. I think they've got a lot of good, positive things about them. Well coached, very good defensively, particularly when Rudy Gobert's on the floor. They're basically the best defensive team in the league. And Donovan Mitchell, they've got the star power there as well. Now, the big question for me about the Jazz this year is how they handle expectation. Last year they were 19-28, and a lot of people thought, their season's done, not going to make the playoffs. They roar back in, and then they knock out the Thunder in the first round and actually played the Rockets pretty well. Rubio gets hurt. Rockets were a great team.
Yeah.
But still, the Jazz really pushed them. So
But you're saying now there's expectations.
Yes.
And people are going to be ready for the Utah Jazz. Because they really had very little turnover here in the offseason. Jerebko gone. and then they drafted Grayson Allen. That's basically it
Yeah.
when it comes down to it. So this is the same team.
Yeah.
But that's usually good in a league like this, having that sort of consistency, continuity of that squad. They know how to play with each other.
Yeah, and Quinn Snyder, I think, is one of those players, coaches, where guys really do listen to him and buy into what he's trying to do there. And they've got a very good home court advantage as well. So I think the Jazz, particularly with Rudy Gobert there, is just such a great defensive team. And then going forward, they can hit the three-pointer, they can get out and run, they get out and play. I think they're a great team.
It's a subjective word, elite. What does that really mean to you? I mean, you say they're right there with the Rockets and Warriors, like right on their heels?
I mean, I think you've got the Warriors, clearly the best team, and I think the Jazz are as good as maybe the Rockets there in second. Again,
That's
teams
elite.
like the Pelicans and the Lakers are going to be sort of hovering around, but right now I would say the Jazz are better than both of those teams.
Elite. All in on the Utah Jazz. Let's hear from you guys. Jump on Twitter, hashtag the starters. Are the Jazz an elite Western Conference team?
And we'll check out the starters throughout the course of the season, 6 p.m. Eastern weeknights. Coming up next, Harp and Smitty back to tell us how many games the Jazz will win in 18-19. On to point number 9 on our Utah Jazz season preview show, how good they were defensively last year. And guys, Rudy Gobert comes into the season saying he wants to be one of the great players in NBA history, confident guy. He told reporters recently that he thinks he hasn't scratched the surface that he can do. He feels like this year is going to be his best year by far. People have been critical of his offensive game, only about 7 or 8 touches per game. We can debate on who is the best player. I think most would go Donovan Mitchell.
I would.
But, Harp, is Rudy Gobert their most important player?
My sentiments on that, I would say yes, because here are the things that he does. He anchors the paint. He keeps people from getting easy baskets. He rebounds. He defends. He was Defensive Player of the Year. You couple all of those things together, he's improving on the offensive end of the floor as well. And his numbers might not show it. Maybe they will this year. But I just think when you think of all the things that he brings night in and night out, his full body of work, he's definitely the most important.
Yeah, I'm with Harp. I think I'm anxious to see his offense. And I look at the young fella and say, just don't try to do too much. Come out there, offensive rebound, get you one jump hook in the post or whatever that post move is, but really rely on that defense and rebounding the basketball. I still want to see him take his rebounding numbers way up. I got him and Joe Ingles as the most important players for Utah Jazz.
See, I think I respectfully disagree. I think he's going to have to score.
You think so?
That's what we were just talking about, how they need more offense. I think he's one of those guys, given the opportunity.
Throwing it right into him?
I really do. I think he's at that point now with there not being a lot of traditional centers. There are a lot of small. He plays against a lot of power forwards with his size. I think if you could get 15 points from him, that's where that 104 goes to 107, 108.
I want to follow up from something that Lee said from the starters in our last segment. There's a difference between being a surprise team that nobody sees coming and now this year, the expectation. Is that an issue for a team that is so young to play under those circumstances?
You know, I think Harp, they're young in age as far as experience, but I just love the way they approach the game. They approach the game to me like veterans, and the way they won games was defensively, so they can go out there and muck up the game and make it ugly. And I think they are up for the challenge of having Quinn Snyder as a leader. Also, they're young guys, the way they compete. Yes, it'll be a bullseye on you, but I think they're up for the challenge.
Snyder, that's the key. And I know it's the players that play night in and night out. They're the ones that can't become complacent. However, again, they believe in their coach. They believe in their system. They have a lot of positives. And how do they win? They win as a unit. Easily, if a rookie comes into this league, Steve, you know that, easily guys are going to kind of give him a second look. In his first year, averaging 20 points, taking all of the shots, things of that nature, you don't get that from the Jazz. They play to win. They play with each other. They have a lot of cohesion.
But you said something
as a basketball team.
I totally agree. Their bench.
Yes.
Their bench can be a little bit better.
Well, let's talk about predictions then. They win 48 last year. 49.5 is the number I'm going to give you for this upcoming season, .10. More or less than 49.5.
Just a little. I think they win around 46 games, 47 games.
So that's under.
I'm going under.
I'm going under for sure. I think what they did this past season really was pretty amazing after losing Hayward to the Celtics.
And who do you got in a contest running here is faster, him or Joe Ingles?
Smitty's my boy.
Come on. I'm going with
You're
Joe.
just being biased.
That's your Utah Jazz.
Set that up. Me and Joe Ingles.